Monday, August 6, 1945 is one of the most important days in world history. For on this day, one plane named the Enola Gay carried one bomb, codenamed Little Boy, towards Hiroshima, Japan. This bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, Japan, and was the world's first use of the atomic bomb on an opposing nation during a wartime. 3 days later, a second bomb, codenamed Fat Man, was dropped August 6th at Nagasaki, Japan, killing hundreds of thousands of people. 6 days later, on August 15, 1945, Japan finally surrendered after 246,000 Japanese civilians and soldiers alike were killed. Although this is an old issue, the atomic bomb drop on the island of Japan is still a highly discussed and heated topic among historians and world citizens alike. The bomb killed thousands of people. That is not in question. However, the dropping of the bomb was justified by the United States and President Harry Truman. Not only did the bomb drop stop one of the world's greatest and bloodiest wars of all time, but it saved more lives than it actually destroyed. In addition, the use of the bomb also opened the world's eyes to atomic power and atomic weaponry and helped establish international laws and regulations as we see them today, noted by the UN. So I'd like to show you why the atomic bomb was a better choice than the alternatives that the U.S. and Allied sources had laid out originally. Then I'd like to show you why World War II desperately needed to be stopped by drastic measures. And third, I'd like to show why the atomic bomb opened the eyes to the world and UN regulations. First, I'd like to say that the bomb was devastating to the island and the nation of Japan. That is not in any question or in any doubt. But it was the last option from the Allied forces to stop the war. Alternatives to the bomb were predicted to possibly include heavier casualties than just the 246,000 killed by the two bombs dropped on Japan. It would cost more time of the Allied nations and more money to prolong this war. The first alternative option to the bomb was an island siege of the island of Japan. The siege would be a naval blockade of the entire island, cutting supplies, both natural and imported. Additionally, it would be firebombing the island, which would cover the entire island, not just the two major cities of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and it would also result in killing the crops and livestock, thus trying to starve the Japanese people. The problem with the island siege is that they didn't know how long it was going to take until the Japanese people finally gave in. More time could equate to more lives lost on both sides, Allies and Axis, and this is what the Allied powers wanted to avoid, was as many lives saved as possible. Bill Dietrich of the Seattle Times noted that if we had possibly prolonged this war any longer, the death count could have possibly even doubled into the hundreds of millions. The second alternative option was the invasion, starting at the city of Kyushu and eventually conquering the entire island of Japan until it was completely and totally under Allied control and the Japanese people had no other option but to surrender. This is also a problem and alternative to the bomb because the Japanese fighting style is very distinct and very honorable, because they would do whatever it took to protect their homeland. And if you ever watched the History Channel's documentary World War II in HD, they highlighted kamikaze fighter pilots, which essentially loaded their planes with gasoline and just crashed them into important strategic targets of the Allied nations. For example, the naval blockade with the siege would have been targeted by the kamikaze pilots, and thousands of U.S. soldiers and Allied soldiers alike would have been killed. So, the invasion could have possibly ended the war quicker, but the casualty count would have been much higher than 246,000 killed by the bomb. So essentially, the atomic bomb dropped in both Hiroshima and Nagasaki did their job and put to end an incredibly long and gruesome war that had been going on for entirely too long. The bomb saved more lives than it destroyed. Another outcome of the bomb drops on both Hiroshima and Nagasaki was that it ended the bloodiest war in world history. A total of 56,125,262 lives were killed over 29 nations across the span of World War II. If the bomb had not been dropped, what would the death toll look like after that if the bomb had carried 6, 12, or even 18 months after? The atomic bomb only claimed 246,000 lives. This is a small price to pay for ending one of the bloodiest and most cruelest wars to date. And finally, the most important thing that the bomb did was it opened the eyes of atomic power to the world. Nations worldwide saw that the atomic bomb truly was a weapon of mass destruction, and it needed to be regulated strictly across the world. Many treaties regarding the subject were designed and put in place to protect the world from such another detonation. These treaties were established by the UN and include the Partial Test Ban Theory, Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Theory, and most importantly, the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. The Treaty on Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons lays out the legal and illegal uses of nuclear materials and research that can be conducted throughout the world. Essentially, all the creation of nuclear-powered weapons, exchange, testing, and use on neutral sites, so like testing on remote islands in the middle of the ocean, was strictly forbidden. However, the treaty does allow for nations to continue this research of nuclear power to advance energy uses, as we find them today in nuclear submarines, or to eventually maybe power cities someday in the future. All these treaties and laws can be found on the UN's website, and the treaties were pretty much put in motion by the initial bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And these laws are crucial in the preservation of peace in the world as we see them today. In conclusion, the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings were awful things, and nobody would wish that upon anybody. But they were justified and even had some positive influences on the world as we see them today. It ended the worst and bloodiest war we have to date, as well as set in order international laws and regulations regarding the use of nuclear bombs and materials. And although the bombings are a tragedy, sometimes sacrifices must be made for the greater good of the people, and in this case, the world. Thank you.
Aaron, what did you think?
I thought the big statement was pretty clear. He stuck with it throughout the whole speech and his persuasiveness. I thought that he did a real good job, to tell you the truth. That he just explained everything, and it really made a lot more sense for me, because I didn't understand why exactly they used the atomic bomb. And I think it was great how he had explained what the atomic bomb, you know, the treaties and how they all tied in with the war, and how that, you know, we may have sacrificed lives, but we got something good out of it. I thought the speech was pretty solid. That's how I felt.
All right. I thought the setup was very good. There's a very clear, controversial statement. You try and make it still contemporary, something that we ought to be looking at and thinking about, and put it into a context. I thought that was fine. And your point of view is clearly expressed. There's a very good preview of what the supporting points are going to be. Internally, I thought that you did a nice job signposting also. I liked on the first point the internal summary that you had before you moved on to the second point. The second and third points were not as well developed as the first point was. In fact, the second point seemed quite a bit underdeveloped. The third point, I think you need some more information in the historical context, and maybe some authorities that talk about how it is the bombings that actually promoted the development of the treaties, and people coming to agreements either to avoid those kinds of situations again, or that's the kind of thing that motivated them to take the actions that you're talking about. I think that's a big presupposition in your argument, and it needs some additional proof for that. I thought that you handled the language issues pretty effectively. You were respectful of the notion that this was necessary. You're careful not to say that somebody deserved this. I thought you hedged your claims pretty effectively. The presentation's level and even-handed. I'd lose the hat because it just looks silly going backwards. You know, you're talking about here we are talking about, you know, dropping atomic bombs and 240,000 people dead, and you've got your baseball cap on backwards, and I'm just going, yeah, whatever. So that's me. All right.